Good morning, everyone. I hope that you are all well. We wish long life to Les Talisman in particular. Good morning, Clarice, Caroline, Rachel, and a good Chodesh to everyone. A new month, the month of Adar. Meshenichnas Adar Marbim Simcha. When we inaugurate, when we welcome the new month of Adar, then it is a time of great simcha, great joy. So, as always, our learning is dedicated in memory of all those that that the Yortzeit falls today, as well as all those that are in their year, and we are saying Kaddish for their loved ones. I want to share with you two brief ideas, if I may. We mentioned previously that this week's parsha discusses about the tabernacle, the house that we build together for God. And one of the interesting aspects of that tabernacle is the fact that there was an ark. There was an ark which housed the Ten Commandments, the Luchos, and it's interesting. We're told that it was gold on the outside, gold on the inside, right? And there was gold, then there was a wood, so it was like a case and a case and a case, gold, wood, gold. And the question is obvious. Nobody ever would see the inside. So why did they have to coat and make the gold, right, on the inside rather than just on the outside? And our rabbis tell us that herein teaches us one of the most beautiful, timeless concepts of our faith. And that is that one has to be gold on the inside and gold on the outside. There are some people that if you ask them or you ask about them, you hear, well, listen, they may be a bit fractious on the outside, but they mean well. They mean well. They're gold on the inside. There are other people that put on a very good show, right? They put on a very good show. They seem very friendly and charitable, and yet when they're behind closed doors in the privacy of their homes, in their Kodesh Kadoshim, their Holy of Holies, they're an ogre. Their behavior is disgraceful. They behave atrociously towards their children, towards their spouses, etc., etc. And therefore, the Torah is telling us that we have to make ourselves into that ark. We have to have that inner and outer consistency, not just in the public domain, but also in the privacy of our homes, our lives, that we are meant to be consistent. We are meant to be filled with love, respect, and wonderful midot, wonderful character traits, which will impact and inspire those around us. That's the first idea I want to share, okay? The second idea I want to share relates to we mentioned already that the ark has this gold cover on it. And on top of the ark, there were what's called keruvim. Keruvim, cherubs in English, were in the form, there were two of them, and their wings were facing overarching the ark, and they were there representing they were in the form of either two boys either a boy and a girl or a husband and wife, father. There's all different explanations and interpretations to what it represents. But what's interesting is that when the temple was destroyed, right, that means God's presence was leaving that home on earth. That was a time when the Jewish people were on a low, when they had transgressed, when they were no longer deemed worthy of having the divine presence rest within their presence. Therefore, what happened? These two cherubs miraculously were made to be caught in an embrace. At the very time of the destruction, they were caught in an embrace, and that shows it's easy to love, when things are going well, but when there's destruction, when there's upheaval, when one faces the vicissitudes of life, and then you still love the person, you don't move away, you don't flee, but you stand by their side, that is the mark of true devotion, dedication, and love for another person or another thing. There's a fascinating story in this regard relating to the Chofetz Chaim. A man was once speaking about the Chofetz Chaim in Florida, Miami, Florida, and he was speaking about the virtues of the great Chofetz Chaim, one of the greatest sages pre-war in Europe, in Radin. And one of the things he said is that, that he was also always compassionate and kind. And there was a story about him, once telling there was once a certain bocher, a certain yeshiva boy, yeshiva student, and he wasn't seemed appropriate for the yeshiva. It wasn't seen appropriate for the yeshiva, so the yeshiva said to him, "I'm sorry, you've come for the interview. You're not getting into our yeshiva. You have to go home. This is not the right place for you." Anyways, eventually this boy had nowhere to go, and he ended up knocking on the Chofetz Chaim's door out of desperation. Chofetz Chaim welcomed him in, knowing that he'd been kicked out. Well, hadn't been admitted to the yeshiva, so he wasn't. And Chofetz Chaim treated him like a king. He gave him his bed. He was exceptionally poor, literally. Most of his life, the Chofetz Chaim had next to nothing in his house, no furniture, no nothing. Anyways, he gave him his makeshift bed. He gave him his blanket. He put the blanket over the boy and tucked him in. And the Chofetz Chaim sat in a chair that night watching the boy. And in the morning, the boy thanked the Chofetz Chaim and he left. He obviously was dejected. He hadn't been accepted. This boy wasn't yeshiva. He wasn't. He was going in a different derech, a different path of life, and he didn't remain religious. And eventually made his way to America. This is the story that this rabbi is telling, and it says, "I don't know what happened, but I'm told that he's a fine, upstanding member of the community." Anyways, at the end of the story, this old man came over to the rabbi and he said to him, "Let me tell you the rest of the story. The rest of the story is that young boy grew up, became very successful in business, and he was always very supportive of all the Torah institutions, even though he wasn't interested in learning. He didn't keep a religious lifestyle." And he said, "And you know why he did that? The reason why he did that is because he was kept that night with by the warmth of the Chofetz Chaim. The Chofetz Chaim gave his blanket, he sustained him, he provided for him, he sheltered him, and therefore the boy who did that, this boy that grew into a man, did the same. And that boy is me. I grew up. And I want to tell you, the warmth of that blanket from the Chofetz Chaim is still keeping me warm to this day. I may not be as religious, I may not be a yeshiva boy, but let me tell you, I give generously to all the institutions in town. And the reason why is because of one old rabbi that gave me his blanket that night." Friends, that is the point that I want to drive home and get across. That we see in the tabernacle, in the temple, where the ark was placed in the Holy of Holies, and we find that the Kruvim, we just learned about the fact that even at the time of destruction, they were caught in an embrace. That love, that kindness, that one smile, that one phone call or text to somebody, it can be life-changing, something to think about. Please God, we should all be able to be inspired and to follow in the exemplary example of the Chofetz Chaim, and therefore look out for opportunities to help and to care and to support those that are in need of our assistance. A Psalm of David. "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He causes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even as I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I'll fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You set a table before me in the presence of my adversaries. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. May only goodness and kindness pursue me the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forevermore." Memorial prayer. שלחו לי עולמו, מנבר רחמים נזרים זה שכנפך לי עולמים וזיסו שכם ושמסם וינוחם ושמסם בשלום ונאמר אמן. Long life wishes to all. Lastly, for Shlema, Mishabach, Havasin, Ramson, Yaakov, Mashar, and David Shlomo, Yivarech, Rapes, Achelim. Babu Shanim, Spalim, Babaram, Sakach, Boko, Yimalem, Rachim, Melechim, Melachim, Melachim, Bishlach, Nim, Pushlim, Shmam, Melachim, Vesach, Yisrael, Reports on Nefesh, Fosakov, Hashem, Makarib, and Amen. Wishing everyone well, a good Chodesh. Please God, it should It's a Mazel Dicker month, the month of Adar. Please God, it should be a happy, successful month. And looking forward to seeing you all, please God, tomorrow. Take care. Tomorrow will be at 10 to 9. 8:50 tomorrow.